White House physician and now Republican congressman from Texas, Dr. Ronny Jackson. Dr. Jackson, you heard that bit from Dr. Lunsky, the head of the CDC, on Wednesday. She said it's safe for schools to reopen and kind of had to walk that back. Got a beat down, I guess, of sorts from Jen Psaki and the Biden administration. Why?
Well, we've known for a while, John, that it's safe for kids to go back to school. We knew initially that kids didn't get this disease, and if they did get it, they didn't get sick from it. Now we've known this for a while, that it turns out they don't even spread it most likely either. There's been recent studies done, multiple schools, hundreds of kids that have shown no instances where children have passed this to teachers. It's time for teachers to get back to work. And, Dr. Walensky, said that up front, and they didn't like what they heard. The teachers union didn't want to do that. The teachers union essentially owns the Biden administration. They own a large number of Democrats on both sides of the aisle, in both houses, in the Senate and the House. And I just think that they're controlling the narrative here, and they need to do what's right. They've become an essential part of what we need to do in this country. They're essential workers at this point. Our kids need them. They need them back in the classroom. It's safe for them to go back, and it's time for them to go back.
But the Biden White House or the Biden campaign promised us they would listen to the science. And if Dr. Walensky is saying, the science says it's safe for teachers and kids to go back to school, why not open the doors?
I agree. Why not? I mean, she's quoting the science when she says this. She's a leading scientist appointed by Biden and his administration, yet they're not listening to her. And this is just because of the influence, the political influence that the teachers union has on the Democrat Party. They are just a large partisan pack. And as far as I'm concerned, they are really the worst of the worst as far as public unions go, because of the way that they control the Democrats. And they are not doing what's right for our kids right here. They are doing what's politically best for them. They want to get paid and they want to stay home. And we can't afford for them to do that any longer.
Let's talk about the origins of this COVID pandemic. I know that you've joined your fellow Republican Congresswoman Stefanik in calling for an international investigation of the origins of the virus. The Washington Post editorial board all of a sudden seems to be wanting to do the same thing. Right. The headline says we're still missing the origin story of this pandemic. China is sitting on the answers. It goes on to say that a Chinese institute must be open to investigators. What is China trying to hide, writes the Washington Post, about the origins of the pandemic and why the origin of the pandemic is of interest to every person on the globe. For a long time, when the Trump administration was essentially blaming China for the origins of this pandemic, they were called xenophobic. Now things have changed.
Right. And, the Washington Post and all the other members of the press out there, they've had a year to look into this, yet they have not done it. And like you said, they've called anyone who's brought that up as potentially this coming from China, which I have as well, as racist. And, now what are they going to do? Biden's saying that when he reinstated the WHO, the World Health Organization, they're going to send the World Health Organization over there to investigate this. That's ridiculous. The World Health Organization is nothing more than a branch, a propaganda tool for the Chinese government. They're not going to find anything out over there. They're only going to come back and tell us what the Chinese government wants them to tell us. So we're not going to find out what happened over there, not in the Biden administration. But I agree. We should have looked into this a long time ago, and we should know at this point where that virus came from, and we should have answers.
It was noted in our report from Mark Meredith that President Biden went to Delaware for the weekend. Now, it's not very far from Washington, D.C., and, it's one man, but it's more than one man. When the president travels anywhere, as you well know, hundreds and hundreds of people travel with him. What happened to the suggestion that you shouldn't travel during this COVID epidemic?
That's absolutely right, John. And not to mention the fact that you're right. When he travels, the Secret Service, the White House Communications Agency, all the support agencies that support the president, hundreds of them travel. They don't all travel on Air Force One. As a matter of fact, very few of them do. Most of them travel on commercial air. They get there, they stay in hotels. They eat in the restaurants there. So if they're really serious about making this, telling folks that we should stay home, then he's setting a horrible example, and he's not practicing what he preaches in any shape, form, or fashion. And if he really thinks that going out and traveling at this particular point in time is putting people at risk, then he's doing exactly that. He's putting thousands and thousands of people at risk by doing this. It's very hypocritical.
Well, again, he was critical of President Trump for traveling and golfing and that kind of thing. why does he need to go? What's wrong with the White House? What's wrong with spending the weekend in the White House?
I guess, maybe he's got an affection for that basement he spent so much time in. He's just got to get back there. I don't know what the issue is.
Let's talk about the impeachment trial. That's coming up. Rand Paul was on Fox News Sunday today talking about, the use of words and the parties that use them. Listen.
You're going to see the Trump defense play video of Maxine Waters telling crowds to mob Trump administration in restaurants and attack them. They'll probably show clips of Cory Booker saying, get up in their face of these Congress people. Has nobody in this country heard of figurative speech? You can argue that his position was wrong and that it was misguided. I accept all of that. But if you're going to criminalize his speech, you have to do it with the same standard. You can't just criminalize Republican speech and ignore all the Democrats who have incited violence.
How do you feel about what the senator had to say?
Well, I think he's exactly right. I think there's a big double standard here. I think, they want to look at President Trump and what he said, and it was figurative speech. And, all of us say on both sides of the aisle, we got to fight for this, fight for that. That's the way we talk in politics. There's nothing wrong with that. People protest all the time in D.C. They always march from the White House to the Capitol, from the Capitol to the White House. That's what they do every single time. That's what happened this time. President Trump didn't do anything to incite this. This trial is a big sham, and already 45 senators have already said that they don't think it's legit, so there's no way it's going to go through. But he's right. They're going to they should hold the Democrats, especially some of the stuff they've said, which is much, much more, suggestive than anything President Trump was, suggested to have said. So there is a double standard. And, we're going to continue to see this as time goes on. And they're going to continue to get top cover from the far left and from the liberal press on everything that they say and do.
Texas Congressman and former White House physician, Dr. Ronny Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
In California today.